Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth episode of my DDLC modding beginners tutorial. Today we are going to polish the looks of our mod a little bit and we are going to talk about text tags and transitions. Okay, I already have the code open here and the game open, so let's start with text tags. Text tags, as the name would imply, are tags that you put into your text to change how it looks. For example, if you want to make your text bold or maybe in italics, text tags is how you do it. Generally speaking, there are two types of text tags, the ones that need to be closed and the ones that are self-closing. Okay, let's take a look at the first type. For example, let's say that in this first sentence I want to make the words I am bold. I'm going to do it first and I'm going to explain later. I'm going to put the opening tag before and the closing tag after. And you'll see that if I reload the game, the words I am are bold now. So how does this work? These are the kind of tags that need to be closed. You can see that we have an opening tag that is open brackets, a certain letter that corresponds to the effect that you want, and a closing bracket. And this is the opening tag. The closing tag is exactly the same thing, but before the letter you add a right slash. And as you can see in this example, for bold the letter is B, for let's say italics the letter is I. Generally speaking, you can also mix these text tags. So if I do bold and italic and then I close the bold and I close the italic, that little bit of text is going to be both bold and italic at the same time. As you saw, I know the most common text tags by heart, but as you can imagine, there has to be a list of them all somewhere. And I'm going to take this opportunity to talk to you about the Renpy docs. This is the website that contains the documentation for Renpy, essentially an instruction manual for Renpy. It contains descriptions for pretty much any feature that is in Renpy. No one knows everything about Renpy, it's just too much to keep it all in your head, so when you don't know or you're not sure how something works, you come here to check it out. You can search for the feature that you're trying to use here directly, or you can go to Google and generally speaking, if I search for Renpy text tags, for example, the first result is the one that contains the text tags. You can see here, this is the documentation for text in general. If we scroll down a little bit, we can find, for example, the description of how we put the player name into some dialogue. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we have styling and text tags. Eventually, I'll do a video on styling in general, but for now, we're just going to focus on text tags. If we scroll down a little more, we can find the list of all the text tags that exist and a small description of what each one does. For example, we can see here the B bold text tag that we already use, we can see the italics, and we can find, for example, the U text tag that does the underlining. If I go here to narrator and I use U, it's going to underline narrator. There is a variation of these text tags that take an argument. There is to say you need to give it some extra information. For example, if we go to the size tag, as you can imagine, if you're trying to change the size of some letters, you need to tell Renpy what actual size you want. And this is how you do it. Inside the text tag, after the code for the actual tag, you're going to put an equal sign and then the information that you want to give it. The information that you can give it is going to vary depending on the tag, but it's always going to be described here in the documentation so you can check it out and use it. But just a next example, let's use the size one here. I'm going to change the size of DDLC club. So I'm going to put size, and in this case, I'm just going to do equals 50. Just a really big number so you can really see the difference. and I'm going to close the size tag. And as you can see, the DDLC club is now really big. In this particular case, the size tag can take just a number and the size of the text is going to be set to that number. But you can also, for example, do plus and then a number. And what this is going to do is take the default size of the text and add 10 to it. The key is still bigger. You can also do the same with minus. And you can even multiply. For example, I can say I want the letters to be 2 times as big. As I said, the information that comes after the equal sign is going to depend on the tag. For example, the color tag is going to take, as you can imagine, a color. But you can always come to this documentation and check which tags exist and how to use them. Let's also take a quick look at self-closing text tags. Most of them are in this dialog section. The dialog tags work in exactly the same way. The only difference is that these ones can only be used in dialog, while the rest of them can be used for any text. For the menus, for example, it works everywhere. Self-closing tags are very similar to the normal tags. The only difference is that they don't need a closing tag, they work on their own. For example, the wait tag here with the W code pauses the line of dialog where it is and waits for the user to click to continue. So to use this, for example, I'm just going to my code and here before the IMDMC, I'm just going to open brackets, W, close brackets, and I'm going to save. And as you can see, I don't need any closing tags. And when I advance, the text stops on the wait tag, and after I click, it continues. The wait tag can also take a number. That is the number of seconds that it stops. So for example, I'm going to do W equals 1.5. And if I go back and forth, you'll see that it's going to show hello, stop for 1.5 seconds, and then continue. As you can see. And that's the only difference with the self-closing tags. You don't need a closing tag. I'll take the chance to tell you about another really common text tag that to use, which is the NW tag, which stands for no wait. And if you put this at the end of a line, it's going to skip to the next line without the user needing to click. So if I go back here, you'll see that I'm just going to click once, and it's going to automatically advance to the next line. And that's just about all that you need to know about the text tags. Again, if you want to explore, you can come to this website and see all the text tags that exist. As always, I'm going to leave a link to this page in the description. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get into transitions. This might shock you, but transitions are used to smoothly transition between different images. You can make your own custom transitions with ATL if you need something really specific, and eventually I'll do a tutorial on that, but for the vast majority of cases, the predefined transitions are going to cover your needs. As you can see here on the top, transitions are used with the with statement, and I'm just going to use the dissolve transition as an example. So if we go back here to our code, and in the line that we switch to the bedroom, below it, I'm just going to write with dissolve. I'm going to save. And if I go back, you can see that now when it changes to the bedroom background, it's going to smoothly transition between them. If I delete the dissolve, so you can see the difference. Like this, it just instantly switches from one to the other. And with the dissolve, it does it smoothly. If we just pick another random one, I'm just going to choose pixelate, just as a random example. And we switch dissolve for pixelate. It's going to do a pixelate effect. If you want to transition into multiple images at the same time, there's no issue. So for example, if I add Sayori here, this with pixelate is going to apply to any scene and show scenes that are directly above it at the same time. So you can see that the background and Sayori are pixelated at the same time. And you can add as many shows as you want, it will work for all of them. Now, if we go back into our documentation and take a look at the description for Dissolve, it says that it's an instance of the Dissolve transition class. And if we scroll down just a little bit, we'll find these transition classes. These transition classes are essentially still predefined transitions, but they allow you to customize these transitions just a little bit further. If we scroll down to find the Dissolve class, you can see that it takes a few arguments. But for now, really, we are only interested in time, which is the time the Dissolve will take. So we can go back to our code and switch this word for Dissolve, this time with a capital D. Always pay attention to the capital letters, they make a difference, okay? And I'm going to use 2.0. And now if we go back, you can see that the Dissolve is going to take much longer. Let's take a look at another, for example, the fade, which has 4 arguments that you can see here: the out time, the hold time, the in time, and then the color. And there's something that I want you to pay attention to. In the middle of these arguments, you are going to find a star sign. This star sign means that any arguments after this one, that means to the right of this one, are named arguments. What this means is that, as you can see here in this example, the first few arguments you just put them in order, but the ones that come after the star, you have to do name, the name of this argument, equals, and then the value. You are going to see this a lot, and most of the time you don't even need to use the named arguments, but if you do, just keep this in mind. So I'm just going to use this fade. And the fade works as a sort of two dissolves. It first dissolves to a color and then dissolves back into the next image. So in this case, I'm going to tell it to take 1 second to dissolve into black. Then it's going to hold that black color for 0.5 seconds and take another 1 second to go into the next image. And if we go into our game, you can see it's going to dissolve to black, hold the black a little bit, and then dissolve into the next image. For the third time this video, I think, you can come to this website, I'll leave the link in the description, and check out all of the transitions that are available that you can use. And that is going to be it for today. In the next episode, we are going to talk about custom assets, so you can add your own backgrounds, your own music, your own sprites, whatever you want into the game. As always, remember, if you have any questions, the best place to put them is in the Discord server. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.